All right. So, just like we did on the last one, if there is no number written in front of the base, the a value is 1. Okay, so my first point is still going to be 0, 1. Okay. My second point is going to be 1a times b, and that a being 1, my b being e, means that's about 2.7 something, right? Now, there's one additional thing in this one. What have we not seen before? The x plus 2. All right, so on the previous one, I said all exponentials have a form of this, okay? There are translations to these, moving the graphs left, right, up, down, just like we did with quadratics. They're not complicated. You just have to know where the things are, okay? So you can either have a plus h up in the exponent with the x, plus or minus h, and you can have what they call a plus or minus k back here at the end, okay? This is just like when we did vertex form with parabolas and stuff. So the h, that's your left and right. The k is your up and down. All right? So think about your translations. Remember the left and right were always the opposite of what they look like? So if there is a plus 2 in this exponent with the e, what does that mean for me to do? Move it left 2. So when I say our original 2 points are always those, they are. And then we need to shift them left, right, up, down if we have a translation. So here's how I would do this. I would start with 0, 1, and 1, 2 point something. Then I would do my translations.
Wait, where would the k be if it was?
It would be like a plus 2 out there.
Okay.
It wouldn't be in the exponent. It would be added at the end. Yep. We're going to see like an A. We're going to see that. All right. So I graphed my original 2 points, the 0, 1, and the 1, 2.7. And then I do my translations. Left, right, up, down. So I take these 2 points and I move them left 2. Ish there. Still gets close to 0. Still has an asymptote at 0. Okay. It's just my points get moved left 2 before I'm done finally. Okay. We're going to stick mainly with left, right, up, down translations with these, so I'm going to go ahead and skip E. No, I don't really want to do too many reflections with these. Okay. All right, so 2 more with transformations, and then 1 more word problem, and I'm done with notes. Okay. All right, so where's my mouse? There we go. All right, so using A and B as our final 2 graphing questions, these just have transformations in them. All right. Again, in this one, 3 is our base. A is our number in front of the base, if there was any. And then we have 2 transformations in this one. What do we see? What would be the x minus 2?
Right 2.
Right 2.
Up 1.
And up 1.
Are we ever going to have an A that's not 1?
Yes. I will show you one of those. Okay? All right. So when I graph this, I start with my original 2 points. My first 2 points are always 0, A, which is 1 in this one, and 1 A times B. So 1 what? 3. So I start with 0, 1, and 1, 3. And then I do both of my transformations to those 2 points. So I take both of those points and I move them which way? Up 1 and right 2. Good. Up 1, right 2. Okay. Now, one other thing that translations, up, down, left, right, do, and that is moves the asymptote. Okay? So the asymptote starts at 0. Think about a horizontal line. Is a horizontal line going to be moved right and left, or is it going to be moved up and down? It's up and down, right? So that up 1 also moves the asymptote up 1.
So is that acting at, so we can always say like that's gonna be the asymptote is that number right there.
Yes. The K value is always going to be your asymptote. Yep. Okay. So whatever K is will always be your asymptote. That's when your range starts to change. Your range would be from 1 to infinity rather than 0 to infinity. Okay? Let's change B just slightly and make it so that it has an A value out front because we haven't seen one. So I'm going to change B and I'm going to make it 2 out front. Okay? So if there is an A value out front, it's only going to change that second point, or it'll change both of them, but you'll change how you get the second point. So our first point is always 0A. All right, so we have an A value this time. It's 0 what? 2. Second point is 1A times B. So in this case, that A being 2 and the B being 1/4 means that my B is now 1/2. Okay? What transformations do we see?
To the left 3.
Left 3.
And up 0.
And up 0, which means my asymptote stays. So I will go ahead. I will start with 0 up 2 and 1 up 1/2. And then I will take each of those 2 points and move them left 3.
We're just pretending that was a 2, right?
Yeah, I just changed it so that we have one that has one out there. Yes,
We're doing make-believe.
we are.
Do we have to do imaginary numbers
You know,
this year?
that's literally
I don't-
all math is.
Not really, no.
Just random rules. Random rules.
Where's the logic?
You love math so much.
You made
Miss Langer, we can't really understand what 3 is. That's just a symbol.
Good.
That's not real. It's like right up there.
Is this philosophy coming out at me right now?
I mean, it's just bad.
Okay.
There's a good reason I don't teach that.
You think 3's real? Okay, where is
All right. God bless you, David Dustug. God bless you. Last example. All right. In our exponential and logarithmic stuff, we're going to also talk about compound interest. Okay. The good news is that these are formulas for you. Okay. And we haven't used these formula charts much, but they're all on here. So this is where they are for. Okay. All right. So real quick, we've got to run through a couple word problems on these, and then we will be done. Okay. All right, so we are given this compound interest formula.
Okay.
S equals P times 1 plus R to the n power. The main thing you need to know is that P is called the principal, and not principal of like the high school, but principal as in the amount that you are investing. Okay, R is your rate or your interest rate. Okay, that is always going to be written as a percent.
So, like, would you set that up as like 1,000 and then like parentheses 1 plus 0?
That's what we're about to do, yes. So in example 4, okay, in example 4, we are asked to say, suppose 1,000 is invested for 10 years at 6% compounded annually. Yes.
What's the N?
The N is the N years, your time.
So it's
Not too bad of an investment.
Do
Okay.
we know if it's years or months?
N years.
Look at it says 10 years.
All right.
Let's make it
So
Here's a life hack, just read the problem.
now there is a difference between what you are asked in A and B. Compounded amount is the total amount at the end. So that's always the first thing that you're going to find. So we are going to plug in 1,000 in place of P. 1 plus 6% written as a decimal is what? 0.06 raised to the 10th power. Plug that into your calculator. We're going to see what that is first. And then talk about how to find compound interest. Now this is money, so we automatically should round to how many decimal places? 2. All right, so I get about $1,790.85. Okay? All right, what you need to understand about this is that this is the total amount at the end of the investment. You invested $1,000. This is how much money you have at the end. Compound interest is asking how much money you made on your $1,000. So how do you find that?
Divide by 10.
No.
Okay.
Subtract.
Wait, can you ask the question again?
Yes. This is the total amount you have at the end of the 10 years. Now that's a combination of the 1,000 you put into it and the money you made, right?
So you subtract.
Just subtract.
Subtract.
They're thinking so well today.
Subtract.
Basically profit, yes.
So is it 790.85?
Yes. Because that's the money you put into it.
You put 1,000 in, you have 17%. Take it out.
Okay?
So I'm not always subtracting.
Why is it just finding
No, it's just subtract what you invested.
No, that's what exactly what it is.
All right, next page.
Stop hindering my.
Last couple. A more generic form of the exponential growth formula is this guy.
10,000.
Let's just learn another formula.
Well, we did this one last year, so how much do you remember? Not yet. Pert's coming. Pert's coming. All right. This formula is almost exactly the same as the last one. The letters are just different because it's not a money formula. So A equals A sub 0 times 1 plus R to the T power. T is your time. R is still your rate. A sub 0, this is called your initial amount.
What's
The sub 0,
the first?
the first A is your final amount.
So we type in all this stuff on the right?
Basically, yes.
Cool with that.
Okay, so it says we have a population of a town starts at 10,000 people. So that is 10,000 to begin with. 1 plus, what's our rate?
0.02.
0.02. We want to find the population 3 years from now. All you're doing is plugging it in.
10,612.
Apparently there's only 0.21 or 1 human.
Now on this one, this is people, so we round to the nearest whole number.
Somebody, it's just a leg for now.
Yeah, someone's just got a leg. No, not even a leg, an ankle.
I would say 10,612 people.
That's what I would say. Somebody's gonna come out looking like Voldemort.
Oh, good. Sometimes you will be given the equation and all you have to do is determine what to plug in. This one, the key is in reading it. It says the projected population P is given by this formula. Now this is the important part, where T is the number of years after 1990. Predict the population for the year 2010. So the first question I asked myself is, 2010 is how many years after 1990?
20 years.
Okay, so you do not just plug in 2010 as your exponent. You have to think about how many years that is since 1990 and then plug that in.
It's too hard.
Okay, so one thing you're figuring out on this is where your E button in your calculator is. Okay?
That's the letter E.
Nope, it is not.
Like right here.
No, we have it.
I'm gonna find this thing.
Oh, you have the old school.
I got one.
It's the old school.
Where's the pi thing?
That's the same thing.
There is an actual E button in your calculator.
I'm gonna find it.
You better.
Already found that.
Better.
And then also make sure the 0.5 times 20 is all up in the exponent. Okay?
Nope, not that one. Whoa, not that one. Whoa.
It
And then
is.
give up.
Yours is second, and
Gotcha.
Oh, my.
can you find it? Yeah. Good. Wow. All right, large numbers here, yeah? Okay. I got
Wow.
Looks like my bank account.
This is probably
such
You
jokes.
haven't eaten.
Yeah? Large numbers there.
Got the correct Harper duo. Just be up to that.
It's a 1-2 combo.
It's the 1-2. It's the 1-2 duo.
All right, last example, then we're talking chapter 6 test, okay?
Honestly, I like.
Or chapter 3 test,
I like
excuse
this
me.
unit way more than.
You do good.
Is that all?
One more question and I'm done. All right, last example here. When it says initially present, what does that mean?
In the beginning.
In the beginning, so I plug in what?
Zero. So
Zero.
it's just.
How many are present after 10 days? Plug in 10.
100.
Okay? This one doesn't say what to round to, so if it does not say, go with 2 decimal places. Okay?
So it's the answer to A is 100?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if you remember that the 0 power is going to make that entire e to everything change to 1, then you just know that it's going to be 100 milligrams.
Uh-oh.
And then part B, once I plug it in,
Yes, what is it? 53.7944? Oh my God.
all right, now, last thing that I'm going through today is our chapter 3 test here.
Is that you know 86? I did get
Like, not worse probably. Means you had to did 14, it's an 83. Dave got scared. What'd you get?
I don't think it takes that.
What'd you get, Jeff? 86.
All right, let me pause this real quick.
Oh, 86.
Actually, I would.
All right. We are just going to set up. All right, real quick to just walk through that. You would find your slope.
He was joking, but
I know, but.
it was a good one. We got some laughs.
Okay, so you find your slope. Reduce your slope. Where do you go after you find your slope?
You pick one.
You pick one of your 2 points and do point slope form.
All right, you're on.
Okay? All you would have to do is distribute and solve. Okay? If you distribute the 1/25th, you get -4. And then add 89 to both sides. Okay? 8 is similar. Only 8 is giving you, instead of 2 points, when it says it depreciates by this much per year, that is not a point, that is the what? Slope. And depreciates means it's going down. Therefore, they're telling me my slope is what? Negative. Now this, that's a point. It tells me X is the age of the television in years, so therefore I set that point up as what? How many years? 4. And how much is it worth? $3.40. So if I have a point and I am given the slope, what do I do? Point slope. Y minus 340 is equal to your M times x minus the age. All I have to do is solve that for y. Any questions on 7? Point slope. Yeah, still the formula. Distribute, solve.
So it looks to me like the money is always y. Is that the case?
Not always, but it tells you right here
Oh, because x is
what's the x.
You need to believe
Okay?
in yourself. You were gonna do great things one day.
All right, David Dastug, are you following with us?
I am. I actually got this one correct.
Oh, good. All right.
That doesn't mean it lives up out though.
Any questions on 7 and 8 before we look at 9?
Oh, here we go. Time to brace for impact on this one.
This one is not any worse than the other two.
Brace for impact.
All right? Okay, this one has a lot of words. This one did not tell me which was my x and which was my y. Okay? I tend to, if it doesn't tell me, do them in the order that they are given. So like this one said, wool length of 2 centimeters, have an average respiratory rate of 160. Those with wool length of 4 centimeters have an average respiratory rate of 125. So I set my points up in the exact order they came. If you flipped that, I gave you credit because it did not tell you which one in this one. Okay? I will say this was the easier way to set it up to answer B. Okay? So from there, what do we do with 2 points?
Find the slope.
Find the slope. 125 minus 160 over 4 minus 2. Give me a fraction, give me a decimal, I don't care which. That's negative 35 over 2. Or negative 17.5. Again, I don't care. Once you have the slope, what do you do with that?
Plug it back in.
Plug it back in with what?
The y minus.
The y minus y1. Point slope again. So this is almost exactly the same as question 7. Okay?
Oh, I did 1 minus y2.
So y minus y1 equals my m times my x minus x1. Distribute, solve.
I'm actually an idiot.
So my final answer for this was negative 35 over 2x plus 195. This is why I say it's easier to set it up the way it came, because now when it says find the respiratory rate of a sheep with wool length of 1 centimeter, where are you plugging this into?
The calculator.
The calculator, but for what variable? X or Y?
Y
That's the X.
times x.
If I set that up with the wool length being X and the respiratory rate being Y, it's easier to just plug that in for X. Whereas if you set it up the opposite way, you had to plug it in for Y and solve for X, which made it harder. But that is still doable. It's just that in this case, it's a lot easier to just type in your calculator negative 35 over 2 times 1 plus 195. Okay? So all you're doing in that is negative 35 over 2 times 1 plus 195. You get something like 177.5. Okay? So,
For the quiz,
Yep.
can you put number 10 on there just for kicks and giggles?
no, we all got number 10 almost right. All right, now, you guys asked me about question 11 before the test. It was on the quiz, it was on the test, you asked me before the test, and I went over it. Okay? So we're going to do this again.
Oh, I guess you got this correct.
Okay? All right. Revenue equation. Okay, revenue equation is revenue is equal to price times quantity. What is price?
200 minus 2q.
Okay, or whatever they gave you. 200 minus 2q, 300 minus 2q. I don't care which one it is, doesn't matter. Okay? What is quantity? Q. You were given that. This is your revenue equation. That's your answer to part 1.
I got that.
That is it. Okay?
The next one, though.
Now, The next one. What is the price that gives the maximum revenue? What kind of equation is this? It's a quadratic.
What?
Okay? Why is it a quadratic? Because you can distribute this in, and it is 300q minus 2q squared, or 200q minus 2q squared. Okay? When they ask about the maximum of that kind of formula, what part of that are they talking about? Think quadratic. The top part, what's that called? The maximum or the vertex.
So just plug that in and find the max of it.
So all you had to do was go into your calculator and graph this and find the vertex. You did not also have to use your calculator like I didn't really want to because that's kind of big numbers. So I used that quadratic formula that is negative b over 2a. Okay? Remember where b is the number in front of like the plane x? So that would be like negative 300 over 2 times a is the number in front of the squared term. So if I did that, that's 300 divided by 4, 75. So the price that gives the maximum revenue is 75. Ooh. Oh, that's the Q. All right, so I found that as the X. That's the Q. How do I find the Y from that?
You do 500 or 5,000.
I can plug that back in. So I can do 300 times 75 minus 2 times 75 squared. Plugged it back into the equation. So I took that equation right there and I did 300 times 75 minus 2 times 75 squared.
Okay, so you found the vertex. Was the vertex 75 or was the vertex?
The vertex is an X and Y point.
So the Q is X, and the Y is what it all equals?
Yep.
The vertex was 75 and then 11,250. That was the point. Was the vertex 75, 11,250?
Yes.
So you could just
Okay, so what you needed to, yes, you could have just graphed it in your calculator, found the vertex. So however you find the vertex, now here's the part where we have to interpret what part we want where. Normally in a quadratic, we have an X and a Y. In this particular problem right here, this quadratic, Q is taking the place of X and R is taking the place of Y. Okay? So that means, do I have anything right now for P or price?
Yes. Wait, no.
I don't have a value for that. I have Q is 75 and I have R is my maximum revenue. How do I find P?
Oh, you do have it. You just plug in 75 to Q, and then it's 300 minus 2 times 75.
Right. This is my equation for P right here.
Okay.
I can plug in my Q value, 75.
150.
So I do 300 minus 2 times 75.
150.
Okay. I do already have the answer to part C. What is the maximum revenue? Which part of my vertex is that?
The Y.
The Y. So this work that we did with the vertex is to find your answers for B and C. Okay? So the revenue equation you find by just multiplying the price times the quantity. You find the vertex anytime they ask for maximum. Now the vertex did not give me the price for that. I had to plug that back into the price equation.
What's the answer
For B,
150.
150.
For B, you find the...
No, for form B.
You would have done 200 minus 2 times, times 50, yeah. So you would have found for form B, the vertex was 50, comma, sorry, I'm trying to do both in my head. 5,000?
Yeah.
Okay. So 50, 5,000 was the vertex for form B. You would have plugged 50 into the price equation. to find your answer. So that would have been 200 minus 2 times 50. So 100 would have been your answer for part B on Form B.
I actually guessed 5,000.
Well, the 5,000 was the y point of the vertex. I think you probably just picked part of the vertex, but
Oh, we go.
because you had your calculator for that.
You just said the y part of the vertex isn't a maximum.
Yeah, and that's what the C is.
No,
Yeah,
yeah.
he had the other form.
No,
That's fine.
what I'm saying is I didn't do anything in the calculator. I straight up just said 5,000.
Well, that's a lucky guess
And you
then.
got it right.
Yeah. You're capping.
Well,
No kids.
all right. Do we have any questions about 11?
Hate to say it.
Yes, no, maybe?
Actually, there's right here.
All right.
Yeah.
That one, if you want another one of those to look at, I can pass back your Chapter 3 quizzes as well, and you can look at that. All right. Last couple are back here with systems. Okay. Now, there was no reason to get 19 wrong. You didn't even have to make your own equations.
I left it blank.
I know. That's why we're doing it, just to do it again. I don't know.
19?
Yeah, we're going to go over it in a minute. All right. I kind of accepted a little bit of 17 and 18, a little bit. Some of the not attempts I did not enjoy. 19, no freaking reason. Okay? All right. On 17. All right. A total of $35,000 was invested in 3 interest rates, 7, 8, and 9%. Interest for the first year was this, interest, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, how much was invested at each rate? What are they asking me to find first?
How am I supposed to do that answer?
Okay, I have how much is invested at how many different interest rates?
Yeah.
3.
I don't know what to tell us.
Okay. I invested money at 3 different interest rates. That means I have 3 variables, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Okay. So X is the money invested at what? 7. Money invested at 8. Money invested at 9.
But wasn't it actually 10?
All right, but that's the second year. All right, so first, a total of $35,000 was invested. What's my first equation?
X plus Y plus Z.
X plus Y plus Z equals 35,000. Second one comes from the second statement. The interest for the first year was this much. They're giving you a total for the first year. That means my answer to my second equation is this. How much are you making, or what do you do with the interest rate and how much that you invested? How do you put those two together? The first one was invested at 7%. How do I show that? 0.07 of X. Then what for Y? 0.08 for Y. 0.09 for Z.
No second year.
Okay, second year, what changes?
The Z becomes 0.1.
The Z becomes 0.1, and the answer is what?
2960.
Okay,
Oh,
I have 3 equations and 3 variables. How do I solve those? Matrices in your calculator. RREF with those things. We did learn that by then, yeah. We just did more of it in the second. Okay? We had learned the matrix reduction by then, just doing RREF. This is a 3 by 4. Okay, and you just plug that into your calculator.
Is it, do you put the top one in? Like
Yep.
111 equals
Mhm.
35,000?
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
So once you have the equation, solving this is nothing, right?
those are some 3x3.
Okay. All right. Questions about the setup? Because that's really the problem on that one, is the setup. No?
I mean, I get it now.
Yeah? Well, the answer to this is I literally pulled the same things again. So just make sure you get it when we redo it. Question? Mm-hmm.
Find out what was invested at what, then you take that, move by each decimal,
Mhm.
set up the matrices, plug in the calculator.
Yes, that is correct.
That's not too bad, not too shabby.
All right, the last two. All right, we did several like 18, both in homework and on, like when we went over it in class. Okay? I remember specifically going over a question like this. We did distance equals rate times time to help us with this. Okay? So it tells me on a raft it took half hour to travel 8 miles downstream and then 3/4 of an hour to come back. Find the speed of the raft in still water. Okay, so speed of the raft is x. Speed of the current is what? Y. So how do I set up one equation? Let's just talk about going downstream. Half an hour to travel 8 miles downstream. What do I know out of my distance equals rate times time?
You went 4 miles.
Okay.
It was half.
Well, no. Distance is 8. Rate is, I don't know. Time is
30 minutes.
30 minutes. If you want to put it into minutes, you can do 30. If you want to do half of an hour, it's 0.5. Either way is fine. Just be consistent between the two. Which one do we want to use?
0.5, because you're going to do miles per hour.
Okay. Now, how do we express your rate if the speed of the raft is x and the speed of the current is y? When you're going downstream, does the speed of the current help you or hurt you? Help. So if it helps, you do x plus y. Speed of the raft plus speed of the current. On the way back, my distance remains the same. My time, I've been told, is 3/4 of an hour. How am I going to do that?
0.75.
0.75. And on the way back,
X
does
minus Y.
it hurts you? X minus y.
But how do you find out what they are?
All right, well, let's look at that. The best way to make this into a pretty looking system is to distribute this. 0.5x plus 0.5y is equal to 8. 0.75x minus 0.75y is equal to 8. Could you just solve this with the matrix?
You don't really need to, though.
Why?
Can't you just say half of something plus half?
No, you can't eliminate right now.
They're different variables.
So if you want to make these into like an elimination system, you can. You could do substitution, or you could just do RREF with matrices.
Elimination.
I'd rather do RREF than matrices.
Oh, wait, you can do that.
So what's the answer to the question?
For this one,
For Form A.
for Form A, let me look.
We're going to put that back way in the
If I do RREF,
RREF. Is 16 miles per hour correct?
0.5, 0.58, 0.75, negative 0.758. I get 13.3 repeating for X and 2.6 repeating for Y. Form B, I gotta look back at my test form. What was the difference in it? The answer for Form B? Uh-huh.
Wouldn't it just be 16 miles per hour?
For Form B, it was 0.277 and 0.055, I think. But that was in
Yes, we don't need more.
minutes.
We have matrices. We have matrices. We don't
So
need
8 miles and 1/2. Then what would you think it would be in a full? 16. So 16 miles per hour.
I did the same thing.
That's all you put.
Yes, 16 miles per hour is correct. And it's still water. It's 12 because
You know the question says, find the speed of the raft.
Hey, Jackson, I got 16 point.
It says find the speed of the raft in still water.
So still
I put still water.
Still water is
0.
12.
Still water is 20.
I was like, if it's still water, the raft doesn't.
That's not the answer.
Yes, they do, Harvard. Yes, they do.
Yeah.
That's not your answer.
I think it was one that I could put in.
Right, all this means that you had to do on 19 was I just moved this 240 to the right. 120p minus q is equal to 240. I moved this 1200 to the right. 100p plus q is equal to 1200. That's already set up for elimination. That cancels. That's 220p is equal to 1440. All I had to do is divide both sides by 220.
Wow.
Okay? This says find the equilibrium price, the price at which they are equal. This means I just wanted to solve for p. And it was very nicely set up for that. Okay? So I believe for this I got about 6.54. Okay? That was the Q for the Y. I didn't need that. I just needed the P, but if you had both, I still said okay. Okay? Well, let me see. That may or may not. Yeah, I did, and that's why I scratched that out. Because that originally I was like, no, wait, no, that, yes. So,
Okay.
yeah. All right. That is what the quiz will be over next class. Those problems. No, you may keep those to study from them. Make sure you know what you're talking about.